Good day, everyone. I am Dia Marie Paderna, and I will be sharing to you our original story, which is entitled The Consequence of Lying. The Consequence of Lying. Once there was a young boy named John who had a habit of lying to avoid getting into trouble. He would tell lies to his parents, teachers, and even to his friends. John thought that lying was the easiest way out of a situation, but little did he know that every lie he told would have consequences. One day, John's classmate lost her expensive pencil, and John saw it lying on the ground. But instead of returning it to her, he took it home and pretended that he found it in his bag. And when the girl asked if anyone had seen her pencil, John refused to tell the truth, and he just said, "I haven't seen it." But John's lies caught up with him. The girl's mother called his parents, and he was caught with a stolen pencil. His parents were disappointed in him and made him return the pencil to the owner as well as apologize to the girl and her family. After what happened, John felt ashamed of his actions and knew that he needed to make things right. That's the time that he apologized to the girl and her family and promised to never lie again. He also faced the consequences of his action by doing extra chores around their house to earn the money to replace the pencil. After that situation, although it was hard for John, he learned that facing the consequences of his actions and making amends for his mistakes was the right thing to do. He also realized that telling the truth, even when it's hard, is always the best policy. From that day on, John became known for his honesty and integrity, and his relationship with his family and friends became stronger and more trusting. That's the end of the story. Thank you for listening.
I am Jeremy P. Verdida and I am going to read the introduction of our annotated reading list. This reading list of ours consists the content appropriate stories that will surely captivate the elementary level students. It is crucial for the development of young people's character and personal growth to introduce them to the idea of accepting responsibility and making amends for errors. This subject discusses the notions that learning from our mistakes and accepting accountability for our deeds are essential components of maturity and integrity. In today's time, we need to properly teach the generation of how their actions will have consequences, and they have the choice to learn from it and apply it to themselves, or to watch it happen and disregard the chance for them to grow. In regards to our chosen audience, this kind of topic or theme is important for us to help them realize the importance of self-reflect when we do wrong. Elementary pupils can develop a strong sense of accountability, empathy, and resilience, which is crucial traits for overcoming life's problems. By realizing the effects of their decisions and learning how to make amends, as early as now, we should be able to contribute to the next generation for them to build themselves bigger in mentality, spiritually, and physically. Elementary students are the target audience. The intended audience for this topic is the students from elementary schools because they are at a developmental stage where they are starting to comprehend the ideas of right and wrong as well as the effects of their actions. They have qualities like curiosity, openness, and a desire to learn. They can gain from interesting stories that connect with their experiences and emotion by giving them an annotated reading list focused on accepting responsibilities and making amends. These tales will encourage children to consider their own deeds, learn from their errors, and grow in responsibility and empathy for others. Our annotated reading list is special in a way because, stated above, the target audience for this is the elementary level. It can become or can serve into being a recommendation for them to have an idea what to read when they want a theme that focuses on consequences and making amends. The target audience should read the pieces we presented as it is a perfect fit into the genre they want. In regards to our theme also, reading is one of the essential macro skills that children must acquire. It expands their imagination and improves their capability for critical thinking. Children are able to practice the aforementioned skills with the assistance of this annotated reading list.
Good day, everyone. My name is Jamal Habanero, and today we're going to present stories that we include in our annotated list. First, we have The Empty Pot by Demi. It is published in 1990. Summary of the plot. The Empty Pot is a children's book about a young boy named Ping, who is given a special task by the Emperor of China. The Emperor of China wants to find the next ruler of China, and he decides to choose the person who can grow the most beautiful flower from the seeds. He gives it all to the children in the kingdom. Ping is a very skilled gardener, but despite his best efforts, he cannot get the flower to grow. He is the only child who returns to the emperor with an empty pot. However, the emperor rewards him for his honesty and bravery. He becomes the next emperor of China. Values is integrated in the story. The empty pot teaches the children the importance of honesty and integrity. It shows them that it is better to be truthful and fail than to cheat and succeed. The story also emphasizes the value of hard work and perseverance. Ping never gives up even though he struggles to grow the flower, and his determination is ultimately rewarded. The second story is Berenstein Bears and the Truth by Stan and Jan Berenstein, published in 1983. The summary of the plot. Berenstein Bears and the Truth is a children's book about a brother and a sister bear who learn about the importance of telling the truth. When Brother Bear breaks Mama Bear's favorite lump, he tries to cover up the truth and blame the sister bear for the accident. However, his guilt eventually catches up to him, and he confesses to Mama Bear. Mama Bear helps Brother Bear learn that telling the truth is always the right thing to do, even if it is difficult. Values integrated in the story. Berenstein Bears and the Truth emphasizes the importance of honesty and accountability. The story shows children that telling the truth can be difficult, but it is always the right thing to do. It also highlights the negative consequences of lying and covering up the truth. Through Brother Bear's experience, children learn that it is better to take responsibility for their actions and face the consequences than to try to avoid them by lying.
The next story is entitled The Ant and the Grasshopper. This is written by Aesop and it is published on the year 1867. The story revolves around the ant who toils hard to earn her living, whereas the grasshopper spends his day loitering around. It is a short story for the little ones about how the grasshopper spends its summer singing while the ant works hard to stack for food on the upcoming winter. When the winter season arrives, the grasshopper finds itself dying of hunger and begs the ant for food. The ant and the grasshopper full story teach us that one must make the best use of the present situation instead of suffering later. The theme of this story is that we need to plan for the future, and for that, we should start working today to reap the benefits tomorrow. The grasshopper keeps on wasting his time without pondering over how he would sustain the winter. On the other hand, the ant works hard during summer to get shelter and store enough food for the winter. The grasshopper faces the harsh reality, which is the result of his decisions and actions, as well learn the lesson in a hard way. The next story is Hansel and Gretel. It is written by Wilhelm Grimm and Jacob Ludwig Karl Grimm. This is published on the year 1812. Hansel and Gretel is a children's book, and it is a tale of two siblings, talks about the hunger of the heart and stomach. Hansel and Gretel who encounter an old woman who turns out to be an evil witch. When their the woodcutter and stepmother planned to leave and abandon them in the woods alone due to the struggling and they could barely afford to feed each of them. The father strongly disagreed to the idea, but his wife insisted. But luckily, they used their wits and trick, and they shove the witch into getting into her own oven. Gretel shuts the iron door and traps her. The witch burns to death, and Gretel releases Hansel from the chicken coop. The witch house is full of food, pearls, and jewels, so the children steal this. They then find their way home to their father, who is overjoyed to see them, and they are now rich. The children's mother, however, has died, allowing them to come safely back home. This story faces the consequences that their stepmother did when abandoning Hansel and Gretel. Also, as the children gets to have an idea that they are in trouble, they learn to become more responsible for protecting themselves, and as well as protecting their siblings and even their father as they take some of the pearls and jewels she has stockpiled in her house, or the witch stockpiled in her house. This allows their father to become a rich man, and the end of the story, instead of having to live in a poverty like before.
Story number 5, titled The Golden Egg. Author is Tim Cabry. Published on the year 1984. Rationale: the plot centers on a man whose obsession over the fate of his missing lover from years ago drives him to confront her abductor and pay the ultimate sacrifice in order to know the truth. The book was adapted into a 1988 film, which was later remade in an English language version by the same director. Values and integration of this novel is that greed drove the farmer and his wife to kill the duck and collect all the golden eggs. The farmer and his wife forgot that the duck only lays one egg. It was greed that masked their common sense. The golden duck story moral is that greed destroys a man's fortune. Story number 6, titled The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Published on the year 1867, and the author is Aesop. Rationale of the story is the tale concerns a shepherd boy who repeatedly fools villagers into thinking a wolf is attacking his town's flock. When an actual wolf appeared and the boy calls for help, the villagers believed that it is another false alarm, and and the sheep are eaten by the wolf. A later English language poetic version of the fable, the wolf also eats the boy. Values integration of the story is that when a wolf actually does appear, the villagers do not believe the boy's cries for help, and the flock is destroyed. The moral of the story is that liars will not be rewarded. Even if they tell the truth, no one will believe them.
The Goose That Laid the Golden Eggs, author Myri Mackinnon, publisher and year June 1, 2006. The goose that laid the golden eggs is a well-known phrase derived from one of the classical writer Aesop's best-known fables. A fable, of course, is a short story with a moral, and the story usually involves animals. The Goose That Laid the Golden Eggs fits all of these criteria. A man and his wife own a goose which laid a golden egg every day. They considered themselves very lucky to possess such a rare bird, and they began to wonder just how much gold the goose must have inside it. So they cut open the goose, killing it. However, to their disappointment, they discovered that the inside of the bird was like any other goose and was not made of the gold. In killing the goose that laid the golden eggs, they had deprived themselves of a regular source of gold. Values integration. In this story, it is fairly and obviously that greed is bad. If the man and his wife had not been motivated by avarice or greed for more gold, they would not have cut open the goose, and thus they would not have deprived themselves of a smaller, though regular and steady and reliable source of income from their special bird. The I want it all and I want it now attitude leads them to kill the goose in the hope of discovering even greater riches inside it. It is their undoing. The Thief and the Boy. Author Basab Ghosh. Publisher and year was not stated. This is a short story of Basab Ghosh about a boy who is stealing things. Once upon a time, there lived a thief in a small town. Ever since the thief was a young boy, he had been stealing things. Now that he had grown up, he still stole to make a living. And because he had been stealing since childhood, he had no regrets. The man was happy with himself and his deeds. Then one day, the thief decided to take a walk by the farmlands. He had run out of food and money for that day, so he thought on taking a walk down the fields. Perhaps he'll find something for tonight. So off he went. He dressed well so as not to draw suspicion. The man walked a lot before coming to a well. There the man found a little boy. The boy was crying bitterly. The thief asked the boy why he was crying. Stifling his cries, showed the man a piece of rope. I came to this well to fill my bucket with water, the little boy sobbed. The bucket was tied to this rope, he continued to explain. But the moment I threw the bucket in, the rope snapped and the bucket fell in. The thief did not understand the fuss about just one bucket when he can just get another bucket. Then the boy tells him that the bucket was made out of silver, and if he leave it in, his mother will be mad. The boy began sobbing even more. Now the thief understood the reason why the little boy was crying miserably. The thief told the boy that he will get the bucket in no time, and so the thief threw off his clothes and bravely jumped into the well. Once inside the well, the thief searched and searched but could not find the silver bucket. The thief called out a little boy, but his calls were never answered. So the thief decided to get and see the little boy. As the man was getting out of the well, he realized that he had been fooled. The thief was tricked by the little boy and purposely made him jump in the well and then took all his belongings and ran away. The thief was mad. Now, what shall I do with no money and no clothes? Thought the thief. Values integration of the story is that bad deeds will always be repaid by bad fortune. Stealing things is not good, and this story shows that time will come you will be experiencing in return the same bad things that you did to others. The thief was also fooled by the thief. This highlights the consequences of stealing things that are not yours. Through the thief's experience, his bad deeds had repaid by bad fortune, and it is his consequence on stealing. On the contrary, the lesson that this short story also emphasizes that do not trust easily to someone that you barely know and you just meet because it might have a bad intentions towards you, so be wise.
The next story is King Midas and His Golden Touch by Charlotte Craft, published in 2003. The summary of the plot: Silenus, a man traveling in the retinue of the god Dionysus, strayed from his party and fell asleep in the mountains of Phrygia. When peasants found this foreigner asleep in the land, they bound him with chains and brought him before their king, Midas. Midas recognized Silenus as a follower of Dionysius, treated his guest well, and then traveled with him when Silenus rejoined Dionysius. Dionysius, in grateful thanks to Midas for having returned Silenus to him, offered to grant King Midas any wish. Midas, like many kings, wanted to be rich, or rather richer, wealthier beyond all imagining. So he asked Dionysius to grant this wish, that anything Midas touched would turn to gold. Dionysius kept his promise and granted Midas his wish, but the king would sooner discover the flaw in his idea. Whenever he touched food to eat it, it immediately turned to gold, becoming inedible. Even the wine, as Midas raised it to his lips, turned to gold. Realizing what mistake he'd made, Midas begged Dionysius to undo his wish. But gods cannot easily recall their gifts, so this was easier said than done. However, Dionysius told Midas to go and wash in the spring at the source of the river Pactolus. Midas did as Dionysius suggested, and, though washing in the waters of Pactolus, he was, sure enough, cured of his plight. The values integrated in the story. The story of the Midas touch is a cautionary tale about the dangers of greed. If we are obsessed with becoming wealthy and see everything in terms of money or other things, the things which gives us pleasure, but also the very things upon which we rely to keep us alive, lose their meaning. Food, wine, the touch of a loved one, all became impossible to Midas once his avaricious wish was granted. He soon realized the error of his ways, and begged to purify and cleanse himself of his greed.
This next story is The Fox and the Crow. This is also written by Aesop and published on the year 1867. In the fable, a crow has found a piece of cheese and retired to a branch to eat it. A fox, wanting it for himself, flatters the crow, calling it beautiful and wondering whether its voice is as sweet to match. When it lets out a caw, the cheese falls and is devoured by the fox. The moral of the famous story The Fox and the Crow is never believe flatterers. In the given story, none of the words said by the fox was genuine, and his only intention was to grab the cheese. The crow believed his sweet words and ended up losing his food.